How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? After playing Town of Salem 2 for a few days and getting the first impressions out of the way, I think it's appropriate to now share my thoughts and opinions of the game. So that's what we'll do in this video. Let's jump right in. So with Town of Salem 2, I would say that the game is easier to get into. It's less complicated, much easier to learn. The barrier to entry is lower. This is a good thing because one of the biggest complaints of Town of Salem 1 was that the game was just way too intimidating for new players. I know most of you guys who watch my videos don't play the game, and if you do, you're super casual. And I know a big reason you guys don't play it is because you don't understand it. It has too much of a learning curve, and it's not worth spending that much time trying to learn and understand all the mechanics of the game while making tons of mistakes along the way. TOS 2, you won't be having that problem anywhere near as much. So if you do want to get into Town of Salem, if the game interests you, I would say just play this game. It's like you will learn it much quicker. So that's a big W for TOS 2. The reason why the game is less complicated, by the way, is because I think the abilities are a bit more straightforward and they're not as complicated as TOS 1. Like imagine you're a casual player of Town of Salem and you maybe play a few times a month with your friends. You queue up and your first game back has 3 transporters in it. You're gonna have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on. Even me, after 7 years of TOS, if there's 3 transporters in a game, even I'm left confused. TOS 2 doesn't have any roles that are like that. Like they're all pretty straightforward, I'd say. So that is a big W for TOS 2. Straight up. Already, I think that will make the game more popular in general. It's lower barrier to entry, people can get into it easier. That's good. Now, some people may be thinking, hang on a second, does that mean the game is significantly easier? Does that ruin the challenge aspect of the game? I like Town of Salem 1 because I enjoyed the challenge. Don't get me wrong, the game is still challenging. You still have to adapt your strategy to the lobby you're in. You gotta have tactics, you gotta be creative, and all that jazz. But it definitely is less complicated. Not significantly less complicated, but it is less complicated. I think the devs did a pretty good job of balancing that out. They didn't make the game so much easier that it kind of alienated the hardcore fan base and appealed, just to people who are casual. They sort of found a good middle point to it where the hardcore players can still enjoy it and people can get into it much easier. Of course, not everyone's going to be happy with this. That's just my opinion. Another point I'd like to make is that I think Town of Salem 2 has taken the Modern Warfare 2 approach where everything is overpowered, so nothing is overpowered. The abilities in this have so much more impact than they did in TOS 1. You have abilities that kill people during the day, that can snipe people during the night, that can do all sorts of things, honestly. You got a role that can kill 3 people at once, and multiple of them can spawn in a game. Like, it's pretty damn insane. Emphasis has been shifted more on the power of the abilities and less on the actual chat. Now, chat, of course, is always going to be important, but that's one of the main differences of TOS 1 and TOS 2. TOS 1, most of the roles, on average, were probably boring and didn't really have a big impact on the game. There was maybe like 6 or 7 roles that had a big impact. Like there was Jailor, Vigilante, Veteran, Medusa if you got a big bait off, Arsonist if they got a big nuke, stuff like that. And then the average role, if you got like Doctor or Escort or Bodyguard and everything else like that, your ability wouldn't really contribute much, and it was more emphasized on what you did in the chat and your daytime stuff. So TOS 2, there's more emphasis on abilities. TOS 1, there was more emphasis on the chat. My opinion on this is neutral. To be honest with you, I welcome change. When you've played the same game for many years, you pretty much take what you can get, so I would say, hey, I'm up for it. Another point I would like to make is that the animations and the windscreens are really, really good. Like, honestly, you got to give a clap to the devs on that one. That was good decision making. There's a lot of different windscreens, and when you get some of the rare ones, you do get a sense of accomplishment. Like, it feels good, it feels earned, and it's really cool. It's nice. The animations are really good as well. I did see some people saying that sometimes they're a bit jarring and they ruin the flow of gameplay. I think there is merit to this complaint, but overall, it's not too bad. The only time you really notice it is when there's an animation that happens like back to back to back. For example, I uploaded a game yesterday where there was a deputy who popped out and shot someone, a conjurer who came out and spirit bombed someone, and then like an admirer who came out and proposed to someone. To be fair, those are like the main 3 animations in this game, and I don't think you'll have that scenario occur too much with just back to back to back stuff. And they can fix it too. They can maybe speed up the animations or do whatever. I'm not going to comment on the balance of the game because I don't expect the game to be balanced at this point. It literally just came out. That's pretty much the least of my concerns. I see a lot of people saying like, oh, this is broken, that's broken, but that stuff will change. It's easy to fix. My main complaint about the game is that sometimes the chat gets a little too cluttered. Like there's too many colors and too many symbols at once sometimes. I've seen a decent amount of people complain about that too. Like it makes the game harder to follow because of how many colors there are in the chat. So hopefully that is something the devs will tone down a little bit. I'm sure it will be once they get more feedback. So overall, I'd say that I had a very positive experience with Town of Salem 2. I think the game will do very well. I think the player base will be higher compared to Town of Salem 1, especially because it's newer and more modern and just prettier to look at. To summarize the points, the game's less complicated. It's more engaging because of the animations. The game is easier to get into. The windscreens are really good. The chat maybe gets a little too cluttered, and the animations are sometimes a little too jarring and ruin the flow of gameplay, but those are things that can all be fixed. Balance is pretty much whatever. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, subscribe to see more content, and I'll see you next time.